Hello, hello. Welcome back to the dining room table. This is Mistakes Were Made, and today we're not going to do much in the way of intro. We are going to get right into our budget recap for the second pay period of April. So this is going to be April 16th through the 30th. At the time of doing this recap, everything has been figured out. We have closed the month out, so all numbers are actual, and anything that we had extra to go towards debt or savings, those have all been dispersed as well. Okay, so let's just jump right in. We did not have any changes for the income. We're going to do a little zoomy zoom so that you guys can see. So this stays at $1480.59, the $2133.03, and the $83 are all the same. Now I just said we didn't have any changes. Let me note the rollover amount too. But we did have some sales on the Etsy shop, and that was a total of $20.57. Okay, so a slight difference. So we're going to go ahead and let me get my little various notebooks out of the way. 1480.59 plus 2133.03 plus $83 plus 20.57 plus 200.66 is a total of $3,917.85. We're going to pause here very, very briefly. As you can see, we do have this extra income or miscellaneous income amount of $83. This is the last pay period where my partner's pay has been reduced because of the PTO clawback, where his company made a mistake in how much was paid out. So if you watched our budget with me for the first pay period of May, which would have come out before this video, then you will have seen what taking that scenario out, how that has affected his pay, plus some other stuff. Okay, again, for the expenses, no major changes, though there is one. Ignore this. Most of these numbers are true and actual. Don't do that this month. The difference we have is with our Google Fi credit card phone bill. We did eliminate a particular charge that was a monthly charge, and so that did drop. So we are going to add all of this together. Plus 160.36 plus 108.17 plus 101 plus 90.44, which brings us to a total of $1,334.97. Now, if we subtract that from our new income total of $3,917.85, we are at $2,582.88 left over. Next, we have the savings section. Again, these numbers haven't changed. The buffer amount is, we're as usual going to keep the cents blank. We're not going to fill in the job savings. I know what they are, but we're going to do the process and then do the calculation at the end. So for now, we're going to keep this as $225. So if we subtract that, well, since we've got a negative here, we're going to add the 225. And so that brings us to $2,057.88 for what's left. Cash envelopes, again, nothing changed for these. These stay pretty static, especially after we've done the actual allocation and budgeting. If there's going to be a change, it's usually one that we'll have made, the conscious decision before we even get to the budget piece of it. I think it's pretty rare that we might have an additional cost that will come in on here. So the only thing I can think of is if we might have an overage and what's in the cash envelope doesn't cover it, then we might need to allocate some money to this fund, but hopefully we're not doing that. All right, so let me move this up now that I've written all of those out. We've got 15, and I could just do this, check to see what it is here since it hasn't changed, but I'm gonna do the math. Of course, I'm doing it the cheatiest way possible by using a calculator. And so am I technically doing the math? Maybe not. 20, 160, 12, and 20, which equals the 571 we had before. And then we have our 2357.88 that we are going to subtract this 571 from, which leaves us with a total of $1,786.88. Look at that. I was actually able to say it properly the first time. Okay, so now we're going to move over here, and here is where we have probably our first major deviation. The $400 for Citibank was the same. $250 for Discover was the same. Nothing for Mom Loan, of course. We don't pay anything for Reflect. We're also, not going to note how much for the extra debt payment till we get through the process. Where we have an extra, and I'm just going to note it over here, is we do, and this is not something that we've brought up before, but we do have, I have a Capital One credit card. Haven't used that sucker in probably 10 plus years, but every April there is an annual fee that comes due of $39. And as a general rule, when it comes through, I think about it and I'm like, oh, hey, this is annoying. I pay it and then I promptly forget about it. During that, hey, this is annoying and paying it portion, I do, kind of run through my mind, does it make sense to keep this credit card open? It is one of my older credit cards. We don't use it. It is providing some credit to the overall credit available that we have. But it may actually be the credit card with the lowest balance. So what it provides isn't really that significant, but I've just been leery about closing it for the potential credit report and credit score ramifications. I don't know if it's really worth $339 or over the last 10 years, $390 for us to have kept it open. Honestly, I don't even know if I know where the card is. I think I tucked it away somewhere so it would never be used. And, lo and behold, all we ever get is this annual fee. So, it's one of those things. Maybe once we get all of our credit card debt down to zero, at that point, I'll feel a little bit more comfortable with getting rid of it. For now, I'm kind of ambivalent. So that does mean we have a little bit of a difference. We've got $39 plus $400 plus $250, which puts us at $689, which we will subtract our 1786.88 from, which gives us a total of $1,097.88 left. I stuck to my allowance budget of $30, so we will just do the quick math here of $1,067.88, and we did the $100 for the gardening season. So we can go ahead and take our 1,067.88, subtract 100, and oops, that gives us a total. Oh my goodness, I am getting all squinched up over here after we put the 100 down here, of $967.88. So as we can see, that is less than what we had originally budgeted, but we also did not expect this expense when we were doing the budgeting process. We had some extra income to help mitigate that, as well as a lesser cost for one of our typical expenses, but it was not enough to fully, make up the difference. So, these are the kinds of things that happen, and, you kind of have to go with the flow and be flexible and, just ride it out. So we have $967.88. We are going to use our standard process where we're going to subtract 75% from that because we're going to do our savings thing. Now our actual savings amount is going to be $241. We are ignoring the 97 cents piece. Why do I have 97 cents? Okay, well, that's actually supposed to be 88 cents. Oh, okay, I'm dumb. Sorry. It was because I took the 75% and did that. Okay, never mind. We are good. 241. So we're going to go ahead and put 241 over here in the job loss savings column. And as per our normal procedure, we have 967.88. We will, okay, there's some dog hair all over here because, that's what we live with constantly. We're gonna remove the $241 from that total. So that means instead of $733, we actually have $726 as our actual. So I'll just put a little A above there. Which also means the 88 cents is going to go, here for our rollover. Now, so because we're going to do our additional triage where we use the 0, 25, 50, 75, 100 method, we have 726. That makes it pretty easy. This is not going to change, so City's still going to get $7.25. Unfortunately, Discover is not going to get $8. It is only going to get $1. And these have all been done. Oh boy, you're off the screen. These have already all been done. I've already put in the payment for City. I've already put the payment in for Discover, and I've already done the transfer to our savings of the $241. So let's go up here and we're going to note $726. And this will stay the same, but we will note this as $1. All right. So there is our budget recap for the second pay period of April, the 16th through the 30th. We stayed on track pretty well for most things. Anything that we had that was an extra cost was covered by any of our cash envelopes and sinking funds. So we did not have to go into debt or delve into what our expected extra income would be, except for this cost right here, the $39 that comes once a year. So Now that we have finished this piece, we're going to take a really quick look at our calendar. And this is just kind of a brief looky-loo at the month as a whole. Let me see if I can zoom, nope, wrong direction, zoom out a little bit without letting you guys see the super mess that's our on the other half of our dining room table. We rarely eat at this table. It is definitely a dumping ground for mail and packages and just random stuff. So yeah, this it does not look like this in its entirety. But here, this is still a process that I do. I like to see the actual money going in and out, and it's kind of interesting to see, you know, towards the beginning of the week, we typically have heavier activity than towards the end of the week. I think a lot of that is because actions that are being done on the weekends tend to get pushed over into a Monday or Tuesday. We've got our debt, our credit card debt outlined, and we will be going over this in a little bit more detail in just a minute. So we've got those all listed. Going forward, we will not be mentioning Bank of America any longer because we have finished the month out without any activity there, and we of course don't expect there to be any. So yeah. I find it helpful to be actively physically writing it down. It gives me another opportunity to review things. If there's anything that jumps out, then we might discuss it, together and say, hey, is this something that we need to be keeping an eye on? Stuff like that. But other than that, it's kind of more just a general exercise that I've tried to stay in the habit of doing. Okay. And you know what? I think I will take our little budget sheet here and we will, get our info. All right, so next we are going to look at the credit card debt as a whole. Actually, you know what? Who cares about that part? We'll just cover that. Okay, so Bank of America, of course, $0. Oh, I should have put 00 here. Citi, we started the month at $6,225 and ended at $4,450. This does include the extra $725 payment that we made this pay period. During the pay period itself, our debt was at $5,575 and dropped down to the $4,450. That was during the second pay period. So there was a decrease of $1,125 during the 16th through the 30th, but overall for the month, we had a decrease of $1,775. Now, looking at this, it's probably not that easy to see. I hate to go in that close, but maybe that's a little bit better. Okay, Discover, we were at $9,944.43. We ended the month at $9,856.96 for a difference of $86.52. Because the payment that we make, the major payment we make for this card is in the second half of the month, this difference is really not, there isn't much of one. We paid, this should actually say 696. Okay. So maybe this is actually $87.52. So for the pay period, we had a decrease of $87.52. We actually paid for this month $253. So that is the impact that interest had. So $253 minus 87.52. We had interest reapply to the account in the amount of $165.48. So painful. All right, so reflect. We started at $13,120 and ended at $12,945. The reflect card is purely a first pay period debt, so there is no difference during the 16th through the 30th, and that allocates to $175 of a difference. So overall for April, we reduced our debt by $2,036.52. Okay. And then I thought it might be interesting to also see where do we stand with our savings. I believe I made a mention of where our savings were for the pending job loss during our 6-month update of our debt confession. So here is what we're looking at now. So our savings, and this is actual savings, so this is what we have in the bank saved up, is $11,024.50, which is an increase of $463. So each pay period we had an opportunity, to add to our savings, and that came to $463 total. We have this anticipated $9,803. That is what I am calculating I expect to receive both for my severance and for my PTO payout. I've, done a tax calculation of what might be taken out in taxes. We fully understand that this is very speculative, that we don't know exactly how that's going to calculate out. We don't know exactly if I've done the right calculations for taxes, for example. So it could be higher, it could be lower. What I will say, though, is this amount is a good chunk higher than it would be yesterday. And I guess I'll do a very brief mini announcement, and I'll get more into it during our next budget with me, because then I'll have some firm numbers to share. But circumstances have changed at the job, and my newest immediate leadership chain of command went to bat for me, and because of their efforts, I have been promoted to a manager, and with that does come a raise. So what I did was I guesstimated what that raise will look like as far as per hour, and then I did the calculations of how many hours I expect to be paid out for severance, how many hours I expect to be paid out for my PTO, what my guesstimate of the tax ramifications are, and thus that resulted in a essential increase in what our savings would be without me actually having to do like extra hours or anything like that. So that's why that is a little bit higher than it normally would have been if we were talking about just last pay period, because this pay is effective May 1st. So if we add these two together, then we come to a total of $20,827.50, which with our current budget and what we had anticipated my responsibilities for that budget will be, would give 7.7 months worth of coverage. Now, this does not keep or take into account the fact that Mr. M did get a raise as well. We are not 100% sure what that means on a monthly or a paycheck basis. We're waiting to see a second paycheck to come through just to make sure that the numbers that we got for his most recent paycheck are going to be consistent across the board before we start making any calculations and decisions and things like that. If it stays true, and even if it's a lesser amount but still a raise, then the amount that I need to contribute to meet our budget that we have in place will, of course, be reduced. And so this will presumably go a little bit longer. Will it get us all the way to a full 8 months? Hard to say. That we'll have to do those calculations once we have more information. So that is where things stand as far as our debt. That's where things stand as far as our actual savings and our proposed or anticipated savings and what that total will look like. We will discuss this a little bit more once I have actual numbers to go with what the raise that I have been told I am getting actually means for the paycheck, both in the short term, as far as how is that going to increase our additional debt payment abilities, as well as what does it mean future-wise, both for unemployment and for our savings prospects and how long we will have for me to find a job. All right. So I hope that this was interesting. For those of you who are new to our channel, welcome. I probably should have done that at the beginning, but I wanted to jump right in. I do appreciate you checking us out. Please consider liking and subscribing so you can see what we're doing on a regular basis. For those of you who have been watching, whether you are subscribed or not, again, very much appreciate you taking the time. And as always, I really, really love reading the comments, so thank you for doing those as well. I do try to respond in some way to all of them. Trying to think if there was anything else pertinent to this, but I think the only other kind of big thing we are going to wait to discuss when we do our cash stuffing for the first pay period of May. All right. Well, once again, thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.